Shalom Aleichem and welcome to Machon Le'Ra Online Smicha. As much as we stress the unity amongst Klal Yisrael, there are some times or some divisions amongst Klal Yisrael that are obvious. Marshal, just like there are in general population, there's a difference between male and female, nashim va'anashim. So the same is in by Jewish people. There is the nashim and the anashim, and the gabi chiyuv Torah mitzvahs, the men and women are mechuyev on different amount of mitzvahs, and so too, even amongst the males, there is a difference between kohanim, levim, yisraelim, and there is also a possibility of somebody becoming a melech, and it's one of the mitzvahs that we actually wait for in the time of Mashiach, that there should be a melech. And the question is, because there are these differences, just like in Berachos Hashacha we say the men make a bracha shelo yasani isha, and everybody is able to make a bracha shelo yasani goy or shelo yasani ovid, and that's because everybody thanks Hashem for their extra advantage. They're able to do more and more mitzvahs, and not necessarily the fact that he's a male, not a female. The fact that the Eibusha chose you, that gave you the opportunity to do more mitzvahs than the women, you thank Hashem for that. That's why you say, Shelo Yasani Isha, thank you, you're giving me the chance to do more mitzvahs. Shelo Yasani Goy, Rahman al Goyim don't have any mitzvahs. So thank God you didn't put me in that position. You gave me at least the opportunity to do mitzvahs. However, as mentioned before, since there are divisions in the men population itself, so let me discuss some interesting shilas that are discussed in Sfarim. Just like you make a bracha shelo yasani isha because there's more mitzvahs for a man, how about a person who is a kohen? And we know that a kohen, there are certain mitzvahs that are applicable to a kohen that are not applicable to Yisrael. And maybe a kohen should say a special bracha, thanking Hashem for the fact that he made him a kohen, or he's not a Yisro, whatever the expression will be. And if a person will will rise to become a melech, because there are certain brachas there are certain mitzvahs that apply specifically for a melech, maybe there should be a special bracha. Not that he gave him the extra money and the power and the authority, that he's able to fulfill the mitzvahs that not every standard person is able to fulfill. And then there is maybe even a funnier question. If somebody was blessed and he's a Torah observant Jew and he studies Torah and he's a Talmid Chacham, some even jokingly ask, maybe a Talmid Chacham should make a bracha. Thank God that you made me a Talmid Chacham. But that's difficult. Like who's the one that said you are rated a Talmid Chacham? And the truth is, which mitzvahs is a Talmid Chacham mechuyev more than a regular person? Yes, this says the Talmid Chacham has to be a little more careful in certain things that are gray areas, but it does he's mechuyev in the same amount of mitzvahs like a regular yid. And who made him the label Talmid Chacham? But besides for that, let's the two other questions I brought up. How about a kohen? Should a kohen make a bracha thanking Hashem that he has the opportunity to fill the mitzvahs that are specifically for kohanim, and a melech? So let me tell you what's discussed in the Achrayim. Achrayim about this discussion. First of all, we all know what the Bach writes, that the Nusach HaBracha doesn't say Sha'asani Yehudi. Thank God Hashem made me a Yid. It's all the Shaloi Yasani this, because you can't necessarily thank God for making you what a Jew, making you something positive, because the Gemara says that not necessarily until a person has proven himself, he can't walk around with pride and joy. I am who I am. Maybe you haven't reached your potential. So it's always you haven't. Thank God, at least I wasn't made into a goy or a eved v'chulu. So based on that, obviously it wouldn't make sense to say Sha'asani Yisrael, because Sha'asani Yisrael, Sha'asani Yehudi, not necessarily you're living up to your potential, especially if you're going to turn it around and say Shaloi. It doesn't make sense to say Sha'asani Kohen if he's a Kohen, because maybe he's not fulfilling to the level what a kohen is, and he still has to become better. So we always say it in a negative term. So it definitely doesn't make sense to say Shelo Yasani Yisrael, because for many reasons. First of all, a kohen is B'chlal Yisrael. He's part of the Jewish nation. You can't say Shelo Yasani Yisrael. And second of all, by saying that, oh, I'm not one of those, you're being miskabed b'klein chaverei. You're getting honor by embarrassing other people. What was the basic difference between the Kohanim and the Yisraelim? Is those guys did the Chet HaEgel. Once Chet HaEgel was taken care of, the Shevet Levi, as a reward, sort of, they became aloof. They became better. So you're saying, I'm not one of those. That's one of the answers why you cannot say Shelo Yasani Yisrael. Another answer is brought that really when the Kohen does duchening, and originally it used to be that they used to do duchening every single day, they make the bracha Shekishanu b'Kedushasei Shel Haaron. Shekishanu b'Kedushasei Shel Haaron is really the bracha of thank God for giving me the holiness, the kedusha of being a Kohen. So everything is nichlal in that. And then there's another answer, which is a true answer in Shulchan Aruch that discusses who is really a Kohen today. Who could trace his lineage back surely as a real Kohen, a sure Kohen. And so therefore, because most of the Kohanim today don't have any proof to trace it, it's just they have a chazaka. How can they make a bracha that thanking Hashem that for sure a Kohen if we don't even know that you are the real deal? Now, other answers were given that, first of all, you cannot say you're such a great person by being a Kohen, because not necessarily, as mentioned before, a Kohen not always has a Maila over a Yisrael, because Chazal tell us that Kohen Am Haaretz and Kohen Am Haaretz and Yisrael Talmud Chacham, Yisrael Talmud Chacham is Kodim. So therefore, he's greater even than a Kohen that's Nichlas Lefnai Lefnim, a Kohen Gadol. So how are you able to say Shelo Yasani Yisrael? Could be that where he's standing is in a much higher level. A Mamzer Talmud Chacham could be greater than a Kohen Gadol Am Haaretz. Then some say that based on the fact that a La'asad Lavai, it says Asida Eretz Yisrael Shetispashit B'chol Ha'aratzos. So everybody, wherever you live, every Yid will be a minor Kohen. So not necessarily you could say Shelo Yasani Yisrael. One last answer about why a Kohen can't say Shelo Yasani Yisrael. It doesn't have to say it, because since the difference between a Kohen and Yisrael is more of a spiritual thing, perhaps it's included in the bracha that we say in the beginning, Elikai Neshama Shenasatavi Tahirehi, because the outside of the two, they look the same. And it's just the inner thing, the neshama, and the levels in the neshama, as it is by a Kohen, is already, you're thanking the Eibishter in that bracha. Now everything I just said is primarily for a Kohen, should he make a bracha. How about if a person is a melech? And a melech, we know there are certain mitzvahs, there's a special Sefer Torah that a melech has to write. So these are the mitzvahs, these are the answers which are brought primarily in the Sefer Shalos Shuvas Minchas Machvas. And he answers many answers. One of the answers is we don't want the melech to become more arrogant. Just like we see that a melech is not allowed to have too much money, too many horses. So therefore, don't walk around saying, I'm the melech. Another answer he brings, they only make a bracha on a mila, on a plus that you have that was given to you from birth. Something somebody was appointed to, you can't say I am a melech, because you weren't a melech from the beginning. Other answer is that similar to this, that because it's dependent on the choosing of the people, we don't make the bracha. And b'chlal, not necessarily is it true that a melech has more mitzvahs than a regular yid. There are some mitzvahs that apply to a melech, correct? Don't apply to a regular yid. But from the other hand, we find some mitzvahs that a regularly it does, and a melech is exempt. For example, a melech can't say testimonies. The melech doesn't say edus, and sometimes a melech can't even be a judge. So the mitzvahs of judgment and edus doesn't apply by a melech. A melech is pater from chalitza, pater from yivum, and there are certain parts of the certain karbonos a melech is pater from. And a melech, the mitzvah of honoring a Talmid Chacham, in public, a melech doesn't have to stand up when a Talmid Chacham works by. So maybe it balances itself out that a melech doesn't have more mitzvahs than a regular yid. So if the reasoning of this bracha is, thank God you put me into position to do more mitzvahs, not necessarily it's more, it could be it balances itself out.